Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Scenic View podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Owens, along with Ardis Watkins, the executive director of Scenic, and the podcast producer, Samantha Cline. It is April 29th, and we have a legislature in session, so let's get down to business. So we have a big show today. We have a special guest, Secretary of State Elaine Marshall will join us later in the little episode. But for now, let's just talk a little bit about the legislature and the short session. Started last week. We had an interview on the first day of short session with House Speaker Destin Hall. I thought that interview went well. What did you think of it, Ardis?
I thought it was great. I think that most of what he said resonated with our members in a positive way, particularly retirees responded very well to him saying that they just have to do something in terms of a true cost of living adjustment. Not one you call a COLA, but it's a bonus, but a real cost of living adjustment next year. Now, obviously, everybody would prefer to see that this year, but it was a big deal for him to say, look, we've got to do this next year. Are they going to get a budget at all this year? That's kind of the question we're dealing with right now. The speaker mentioned last week the tax package is one of the big points of contention between the two because they have different ideas for whether cutting corporate and personal income tax will allow you to do the things you got to do to keep the state rolling on.
Yeah. And I did forget to mention that it was our 100th episode last week.
Yeah. Woo!
We should have made a bigger deal about that.
Really excited.
We weren't keeping up with that. But so big ups to us for the centennial episode. Is that the right word, I guess? Maybe.
I think so.
Sounds good to me.
Works, yeah.
It's just a whole bunch of talking for 100 episodes.
So one clip that we did pull out of the episode last week pertained to job cuts. And
therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, the speaker was pretty upfront. We think there's going to be cuts. And we think that there's not been enough direction about where you can afford to do that. So I get it that there's a hang up some people have down there about jobs that have been vacant for a super long time. Agencies, though, have been coming on this podcast one after the other saying some of those that have been vacant for a super long time are because we can't afford to pay our bills as an agency. We're not getting enough funding to do the people's business.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing the people's business with less employees and using some of that salary money to fill the gap. That's a problem. We're not going to stop saying this because it matters. Since 2009, the number of state employees has not increased, but the population has increased by 2 million. So those folks, those overall North Carolinians, are getting a lot less per person than they ever did. That's not good, and it's terrible for public safety and public health.
So we'll get into that with Elaine Marshall as well, because she spoke about that in committee a few times, right?
She has a unique perspective. Her agency's one that actually brings in money to the state, not to her agency. She gets a tiny portion of it, but her agency brings in money through fees. And it also it does the things required to be put into place for North Carolinians to start new businesses. So some of her testimony at the legislature has been super compelling.
Mm-hmm.
We need more businesses. We need more economic development, but not having enough state employees, impacts that as well. So it doesn't just impact public health and safety, which are so vital. It impacts the bottom line.
So Speaker Hall seemed pretty confident that we would get a budget. I know it's the first week. Has there been any kind of movement that you know of on that?
Depends who you ask in the building. It's a mixed bag response. I think they're trying hard. I do think they're trying hard. And again, I think if they could figure out the tax thing, that would be a lot of it. But I hope as they're hammering this out, and I do think there were positive things the speaker said last week that maybe will continue. I do hope that they'll look at state employees as seriously as they are proclaiming to the public they're looking at teachers.
Yeah.
Teachers matter. Everybody else, by the way, that works in a school building is super important not to lose, too. But what's getting the media attention, because it's the sexiest topic, is teachers.
Especially with their event coming up Friday.
Yeah, a lot of school districts closing around the state so that NCAE can have a rally on Friday. And legislators aren't here on Friday, so it really doesn't impact legislators. But, it's good that people have the right to come and have their voice heard in whatever capacity. We have a rally May 6th that's scheduled.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And
But, we can't close state agencies. So unlike the schools that are closing, so NCAE can have the rally, we can't do that. We have to keep operating agencies, and especially places like prisons or HHS facilities taking care of vulnerable populations. So, and no one would expect that we would close those places.
Can't just lock up the prison and
no,
rally, right?
no. So I'm suspecting, there's going to be, because of the staffing shortages, we don't expect some massive crowd. What we do expect is the folks who come will be super passionate about their message. It is on a day the legislature's in session. So that's the main goal here, is to make sure our members get to talk to the lawmakers, because we can talk all day.
Yeah.
And they're used to seeing us. Hearing it from the folks at home, I think, is going to matter a lot. And I'm telling you, I still say, if I'm a lawmaker and the idea of losing jobs, state jobs, doesn't worry me, that there's a problem, because every lawmaker's communities would be affected. State employees spend money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got less of them, you've got less money being spent in your district. That's a problem.
Yeah, we're looking for a good showing on Wednesday. It should be a fun time. We have about 150 people registered so far.
Listen, that's a lot better than I thought, especially considering the staffing shortage. I know people are very passionate. A lot of people are a little scared to come to a rally still. We haven't had one in years because people have been very gun shy about coming to a rally, thinking if I go, I might be targeted, as not just necessarily losing my job for coming to a rally or talking to lawmakers, but I might not advance in my agency. It might work against me.
Yeah.
So I would, my plea to the agencies and to the universities, everybody else that has state employees who might want to come, is please be supportive. If folks want to take their personal time and it doesn't cause a staffing crisis, please be supportive of them.
Yeah.
They mean no harm. They're not going to hurt your agency. In fact, they want to help your agency by spreading the word that you don't have enough money.
And if you can't come to Raleigh, we understand, but we do have an option for you. You can go to lobbyday.scenic.org, and we have a special tool there designed to allow you to reach out to your legislator through email and calls. And it's really easy to use. You just type your address in, and it populates for you the address and everything, and it's really easy to use. So take advantage of that if you can. And for everyone else, we'll see you out there on Wednesday. The only other big story that I saw, and I'm sure there's a lot because there's a lot going on right now, but State Health Plan Administrator Tom Friedman, who has been on this show many times.
Oh, he's one of our regulars.
Yeah. So he told the News and Observer that the plan is currently in its second year of a contract with Aetna, and it projects that it will spend more than $1 billion over what it had originally planned for the 3-year contract.
Yeah. Well, I mean, costs. He's been clear on this podcast that costs, in terms of, when I say costs, I mean the sticker price, what we're paying for these services, is apparently so doggone high in some cases. You could take people to their appointments in limos from around the state and still, if you went with something like Lantern, this new program they have, still save money. So we know we're paying, in some cases, outrageous and disgusting prices. The health plan's trying to get a hold of that. The last information we have on utilization. So if I'm a lawmaker, I might want to know, is this price going up because they're using too much health care? And the last data we have on that shows the opposite. Through the end of 2024, the usage went down. Don't have the most current up-to-date data on that. I understand we might be getting that soon. But what we do have data on is that we are wildly overpaying in some cases. Again, the state health plan under Treasurer Briner and Executive Administrator Thomas Friedman are working really hard to get that part under control and use market forces, capitalism, to make people have to stop overcharging the state.
Well, I think that's pretty much the wrap up for the week. You got anything else to add, Ardis?
No, we're excited. Thank you again to Speaker Hall for having come on. I think that the one thing we all took away from that is that he seems very genuine and that he wants to help. And so I hope that he finds a way to do that. And thank you to our guest this week, Secretary of State Elaine Marshall. I think this is a great interview.
All right. Well, enjoy the interview with Elaine Marshall. Our guest today is the Secretary of State, Elaine Marshall. She has been in her role for 8 terms now, from
That's
what
correct.
I could read.
Yes.
We welcome her to the podcast, and she is a longtime scenic member, from what I understand,
That
on
is
top
correct
of all
too.
of her
Yes.
duties.
Yes.
Welcome to our podcast. Before we get into our grilling of topics, I wanted to run through some statistics that I looked up and found on you, because you've had a long and celebrated career. So you were the first woman ever elected to the executive branch of North Carolina in 1996.
That's correct. That's just so astonishing to me. Yeah.
Before that, you were in the Senate, right?
Yes.
How long were you in the Senate?
1 term.
Okay. And before that, you were a teacher, right?
Yes.
An attorney.
Yes.
So you've just done everything.
I've worn a lot of hats in my time.
And under your 8 terms as Secretary of State, 2.2 million businesses have been formed, and you pioneered e-commerce in government and investor and intellectual property rights. You've championed those as well. And an unusual one, I thought, did you know, Ardis, that she has a gold record?
No, a gold record.
Yeah.
Too. It's not for singing. It's for protecting intellectual property.
Yeah. The
how cool. No, I did not know that.
Recording Industry Association of America presented her with an honorary gold record for combating music piracy. When was that?
2005 or 6, back when everything wasn't a podcast or a subscription, a Spotify, that kind of thing, when it was CDs and what have you. Yeah.
Oh, you deserve a gold record if you were fighting that fight. That was bad.
Yeah.
Songwriters and
Ardis is an aspiring country music singer, so I thought she would like that.
Not singer, a songwriter.
Songwriter, I'm sorry.
But they were getting, I just remember, especially out of Nashville, they were always so upset back in the day, particularly over, they just got robbed. So I bet they did give you a gold record. That's awesome.
Well, I threw that fact out there for you, Ardis. So, Secretary Marshall, you recently testified before the House Oversight Committee and talked a lot about the budgetary problems in your agency and all over state government. So we wanted to have you on to talk about some of that stuff. You've been vocal about your department's needs. And can you walk us through just kind of the resource gaps you see in your department?
I'm delighted to. Thank you for having me for this. All along in my administration, pretty much, the numbers of businesses being created just went up kind of. There was a dip, 2008, 2009, the recession and the real estate problems we had. And then it picked up 2011, 12, and kept on going. And then the pandemic came along. And I didn't know what to think, didn't know how to be prepared for it. And I thought, well, I wonder if it's going to plateau out, if it's going to decline. I was absolutely wrong. The number of businesses being created took off like a rocket. And month over month, it would be 1,000 more over the past month or 1,300 more over the prior month. And it kept going up and up. And we just said, what in the world is going on? So we ultimately ended up surveying these people about why they started their business, where did they get their information, what kind of obstacles. We're the only Secretary of State in the country who has conducted such a survey. But we like to stay in contact with our customers. Now, as this escalation has gone up, that means that North Carolina's more prosperous, businesses coming in, people seeing opportunities. That means that there's more business economy going out there. But that also means that we have much more work to do, because business creation is not like basketball. It's not one and done. Yeah. Each new business, whether it's a corporation, an LLC, or some of these partnerships, they have a renewal obligation, a reporting obligation every year. So as the numbers go up, for these new creations, and I'll give you numbers in a minute, the life cycle of the volume of work that we have to do is just, I call it an avalanche. The annual reports are due a companion with tax day on April 15th. And beginning February, I see the snowball at the top of the hill, and it gets larger and larger as it comes down. And I can't stop it. I've only got to get out of the way and manage it as best I can. And the same was true this year. Now, we work hard. We actually harass people to file early. I tell them, if you'll just go ahead and file, you'll stop getting notices and reminders. But we work hard. Every speech I talk about it. We send out email notices. We send out cards to just remind people, because it's the kind of thing that they think their tax guy is doing it. Their tax guy maybe not be doing it, what have you. But in 2024, over 172,000 new businesses were formed. Our highest year of all was 178,000 in 2021. I'm giving you the rounded up numbers.
Yeah.
But that was in the middle of the pandemic. And we have not had quite that high a number ever since. So I thought, well, maybe we're heading down, but we're only, last year we did 172.4. We're only about 5,000 to 6,000 over a whole year short of what we were at our highest year. So there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's still growing and growing and keeping up, and folks are just seeing new ideas or getting a side gig, because inflation's taken a hold. Everybody sees that. They may need to do something to supplement their income. A lot of state employees have side gigs to secondary employment to supplement, because their gas prices have gone up and they haven't gotten a pay raise. Their food costs have gone up and they still haven't gotten a pay raise. And so, it's a problem for this state. It's a problem for the agency because of the workload that we have.
Yeah.
Our mission is to support economic development. We've got a long mission, but you can say it in a couple of words. It's to support the economy. And people pay for services. Everything pretty much that we do, except the educational component, is they pay. It's a fee. It's a fee that goes in there. And they expect prompt turnaround. They're not. When I started practicing law, it took 60 days to get something back from the Secretary of State's office. Of course, it was only mail then, and you couldn't get any answers and what have you. Couldn't get anybody on the phone and so forth. But we've added a lot of technology. We've improved that situation greatly. Now, in the busy time of the year, we do have a telephone problem. I've asked the General Assembly for more help with customer service. We can handle about 900 telephone calls a day. And in busy time, we get 1,200, 1,500 calls. So the math is right there to show anybody at the General Assembly the need. We are excited. We thought 2025 last year was going to be the beginning of the down. First quarter was not very good. Second quarter wasn't very good. But lo and behold, third quarter and fourth quarter shot up like a rocket again. And we finished out the year with just a few thousand under the best year ever. And 2026 is turning to look real good. Yeah. The first couple of months that are in are looking real good. But people pay for these services. Now, they want it to be done timely. It's important for the whole business community all across the state. Transparency is important. Access to the public data we have, and posting it, handling it quickly. What am I telling you? Banks will not open an account without doing due diligence to see that the entity is current and active. Insurance agents, real estate agents, every morning they tell me when they open up the office, they open up the website and go to the Secretary of State's office to see if somebody's current active. They are in the risk prevention business. They don't want their stuff to go sideways because they've gotten bad information. Accountants, lawyers, CPAs, all of those folks are in our database all the time, helping their clients make good business decisions every day. Think about it. How many buy, sell, lend, borrow, investment decisions get made all around this state?
Yeah.
And a lot of them, they're coming to our office just to do their due diligence, make sure everything's right. I was talking with the labor commissioner the other day because they know the names of the people behind organizations. When somebody has not paid their employees and a company has folded and gone away, they're looking for the principals. And they're monitoring our website to make sure that these people didn't operate under some name and then come back 2 or 3 months later and open up another business, same people, different name.
Yeah.
So investigators, lots of folks are on. But we are having trouble keeping up and filing and putting things up on the database the way that people would like it. With this life cycle that they have of reporting every year, the paperwork volume has just gone up and up and up. And I have repeatedly asked the General Assembly for additional staff. We have 82% growth since 2017 and not a bit of help extra.
So
No, go ahead, John. I think we both jumped on that.
So your office hasn't grown at all in that time, or has it? Are you still understaffed?
We're still understaffed.
Okay.
We're still understaffed. We have about 183 people. Last year, people are under the misimpression that we keep the fee money to run the office. That is wrong, wrong, wrong. The fee money all goes to the General Assembly. We keep a very teeny tiny of some like copy fees or, obscure filing fees that don't amount to a whole lot. Because I jokingly say I'm the Secretary of Stuff. If the General Assembly wants to keep a record of something and it doesn't naturally fit in insurance, agriculture, or education, guess who gets it? The Secretary of State gets it to keep up with it. So we've got this very valuable database, and we just don't have the ability to keep it current.
So, and that's one of the things we wanted to talk to you about. You've been, well, first of all, despite doing this for 30 years, watching these same problems play out for 30 years, you haven't had your energy about it dimmed even a tiny bit. Because when you come to legislative committee, you not only come with the receipts, you come with the energy, and the whole room, I've noticed, stops whatever they're doing on their phone and starts listening. And we can't help but do that because it's a very compelling message. And I wanted to just ask you.
It's a compelling message, but the people who need to hear it are not in those committee rooms. That's the
and that's one of the reasons to have you on here, because what do you think is the hardest part of making clear to the General Assembly that the lack of investment in state employees has real dollar effects on North Carolinians and on North Carolina's economy? You've mentioned all of that, but what's the hardest part of getting that message through, in your opinion? Because we've been trying to get the message through that since 2009, the number of state employees is the same. But there's 2 million more North Carolinians.
That's right.
So our hardest thing to make anybody understand is you can't serve those additional 2 million with the same people. What's the hardest thing about y'all trying to get the message through about what you're trying to do for business so that people can be innovators?
I don't want to appear to be whining, and yet I know I a little bit am. I would think that a logical analysis of the amount of money we take in, how much the productivity of each person is, the importance of what it is, and the fact that a long time ago, basically we got back about 10% of the money in an appropriation. Now we're under 9% of our volume.
Of the money you're bringing in.
Of the money, yeah. We don't get back 10 cents on a dollar. We get less than that if you look at it that way. No other business doesn't reinvest in profitable lines.
Right.
So the committee that we're on is not a business committee. That's a number one problem. The committee that we're on is the least financed, the least wealthiest committee of money to do anything with, because many of them are advocacy groups and services. Now, insurance is there, but they're different because they are receipts funded.
Yeah.
So it's a real mixed bag. When we go to talk to legislators or the committee members individually, they praise what we do. Yeah, we understand you need more staff. Yeah, but nothing comes of it.
And, I was just talking to a reporter the other day who was very surprised when I said, look, we haven't known since the Purdue administration what the cost of turnover in state government actually is in real dollars. There was a vendor that was hired to look into that during the Purdue administration. That's been forever. We don't know now, but it was over $400 million then. Those are the kinds, like you said, of real cost. Somebody needs to do these kind of evaluations.
Not only do I need more employees, I need significant salary increases. I've got among probably the lowest paid in all of state government. I've got 80% of my people that are below the midline, and 60% are down in the first quartile. You cannot have a family. You cannot buy a car. You cannot buy a house with a $45,000 a year job
No.
around here.
Well,
That's
but the
basically
popular line of thought is, let's cut employees, and then the ones that are left we can give more money to.
I'm already short to start with.
So I just wondered
Yeah,
what you thought.
we're hearing that a lot from a lot.
Well, and we've embraced technology. You can't say that have left everything manual.
No.
During the pandemic, we worked hard on a software revision that has taken, I would say, probably 80% of the choke points out of business filing. People will make the silliest mistakes. They'll put that it was organized under the laws of Delaware. That was the last one they did at that law office. They didn't change the computer. Or they will put in wrong addresses, or they will try to file something for a name that's not available.
Oh.
So our system is kind of like a lot of your credit card experiences online. If you don't put it in there exactly right, like your box number or your zip code right or all that kind of stuff, it stops you dead. If you put in a name that's not available, you don't even get off of first base.
That makes sense.
So that has eliminated, because that was terrible. We'd have to communicate back with the filer. The money was already deposited. Then we'd have to track, does the change come back and match it up with the money? Oh, those are the kind of headaches. I've gotten rid of a lot of them. So the technology has helped us a lot.
I imagine that those jobs aren't just, obviously, they're not just data entry. You need to know how to do those things. So you need to build up, knowledge to do that. So you can't just replace those people with anything, right? So
yeah, you're right. You're right. We've got some what I call senior document examiners that handle the most complex. I mean, we've got some very large corporations in this state that do mergers, acquisitions. We've got this great pharmaceutical, life sciences, bio, agriculture, that the big companies are watching everything that's going on here. They are merging, they are investing in, and they need to know what's what. So this is pretty sophisticated stuff.
Yeah.
And our job is to make sure that there are no glitches in the legal entity that is being created. We're not going to start out by letting something slide. Even the simplest pieces of information, if they're not all there, it will get rejected, because that is a weakness in the entity. It could be something as simple as a bid disqualification in a dispute from some other company, or it could be a problem in a major lawsuit if there's a defect in the corporate entity. Now, those are kind of the far ends of the...
But there's a lot on the line.
There's a lot on the
with
line.
what y'all do.
Nobody wants to buy a lawsuit.
So how do we get a meaningful, competitive pay structure put in place? Like what's in our way of doing that, in your mind?
What's in the way of doing that is the bill that was passed back, well, it was actually starting, I guess, about 2010, on these automatic triggers for tax revenues.
Income tax, right?
Yeah. We are giving away corporate tax benefits to people that don't live in North Carolina. There are other corporations, whatever. And then on the personal side, we have people that consume services, that need services, and yet they're not being funded. And unfunded mandates from the legislature, they are not even consistent, it's the word I'm going to use, enough to create a new program that's going to take people to plan and execute and deliver and then fund. They'll create positions, but not fund positions. We've been working for close to 4 years on an unfunded mandate that my staff has put over 20,000 hours. It's a complicated notary technology thing in writing the rules, modernizing the laws, homogenizing the old one and a new one. And the hardest part was setting the technology standards for the vendors in this area. Deed fraud and financial fraud is a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And this, without the proper guidelines on it, the proper guardrails, it could be the wild, wild west of all types of financial fraud. And vendors that have looked at what we've done said, this is what we've been waiting for. This is the gold standard. A lot of other states have done something that's pretty loosey-goosey. And, they want business, but they don't want to be a part of anything that harms people. They're not out there to support fraud. So, but the General Assembly said, yeah, you need these 4 or 5 positions. It was 5 and we were content with 4. And then the money appeared to be there and then it got gone.
This is so you're saying a lot. The budget is still out there being decided.
Yeah.
And you're saying a lot of stuff that's real talk.
It's real talk. I mean,
are you not worried they're going to say, ooh, we're cutting the Secretary of State's office for all that real talk?
I can't worry and predict what I think they're going to do. I'm just going to push forward. I'm trying to be very professional about it. People have said, well, give us the number. We'll harangue them with a bunch of calls. No, I'm not going to do that. That is not productive, not
Right.
in this type of situation. It just makes them mad. I'm just hoping that logic and business sense will prevail.
Yeah. I was assuming that's probably what you thought, because honestly, our experience also is I don't think anybody's seeking to do harm when they're elected to public office.
But their priorities are different than some of the rest of us.
It can get real when you've got all those pulls on you and you've been in the Senate. I've never been in public office. That would never happen. The public would not allow that. I can only imagine what it's like to have all those, everyone pulling on you saying this is the most important thing and you have to prioritize some of them. But what I'm noticing is that you are consistently making really compelling arguments, not just about what's good for taxpayers, but what's good for business.
Right.
And for right or wrong, my experience as a lobbyist has been if it's good for business, usually people embrace it. So I've been a little confused why the Secretary of State's office hasn't had more money thrown at it, because you actually facilitate business.
I can only guess. I mean, they can't say they don't know, because I talk about it every month at the Council of State. They can't say that they don't know because I've been in front of them in committee meetings.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not their fair-haired child, because I see other positions getting additional staff, but it's not coming our way.
All right, let's get some money for Secretary of State.
Well, we know that you're a very busy person, but we do have a few more questions, and then we'll let you escape us. So you've been a Senate member for a long time. You speak at our convention about every year. I don't know if you came this year, but you've been pretty much every year I've been there.
Oh, this year I was on vacation.
Oh, okay.
First serious vacation I've had in about 4 or 5 years.
So we'll probably see her this year.
We support that.
Yeah. District 22, I think you're from Harnett County, right? So
well, Cliff Brown signed me up, and I think I'm in District 40. Isn't that Cliff's? I
think he's 20 now. I think we changed them.
Yeah. These things
they
move around over time.
But obviously the actual district number doesn't impact me very much.
But we do appreciate you being a member and speaking at our convention so much. What do you wish more state employees understood about why membership matters in something like Scenic?
Well, membership matters simply because of the kind of thing we've been talking about. You all are competent advocates at the General Assembly. And without that, I shudder to think what bad or excessive things might happen, or, your collective voice is needed to push through either changes or financial situation. So that's, the benefit of the association.
Well, thank you. And do you have any other questions, Ardis?
Just as someone who sits in both worlds, so you're an elected official and you're a state employee at the same time, what message do you want to send to the state workers who are really very downtrodden and frustrated right now? They feel like nobody in power listens to them. Do you have any message for them?
I can just tell you how I deal with my employees.
Okay.
My employees, when I first came in, did not know why they moved the paper from the right side of the table to the left side of the table. They now know what they do, the significance of it, who they do it for. They're not doing it for me. They're doing it for the person who has an aspiration to have a new business, a new life, something better for their family. And they do like working for me, but they like the notion that they know that they're working directly for the people and fulfilling their hopes and dreams. And that builds families, that builds a better North Carolina, that helps all of our counties, when we've got stronger families and more wherewithal and a diverse business economy. So they know why they do what they do and who they're working for.
Very
well said.
Good. So every week I ask an off-the-wall question.
Oh, my word.
So I have one for you.
Here we go.
Always. Do you want to play my theme song?
John's wacky weird question of the week.
So my question for you. So you've had a long and meaningful career in public service, but my question goes back to your first race for Secretary of State.
Okay.
And I ask this because you'll forever be known to my dad and his generation as the woman who beat Richard Petty.
That is who I am, the woman who beat Richard.
And I've heard you talk about that at the convention once before. What can you tell us about that race, and what are your memories of it? Were you nervous when you saw that he was on the other side against you?
No, I knew that going in, even when I filed, because he had made rumblings about running for governor, and the Republican Party kind of tamped him down and said, that shouldn't be your first. You should do something else. So he picked Secretary of State. And everybody at the General Assembly on the Democratic side was quite worried. They thought he's a very good name recognition, and what about coattails? So both Mark Bass Knight commissioned a survey, and Rufus Edmiston, who was then the incumbent Secretary of State, had a survey done. And those two surveys were about aligned. When they were asked, how many of you know Richard Petty? It was like better than 90%. Dean Smith, Jim Hunt territory.
Yeah.
They knew it. But would you see him as a statewide elected official? That was only 30%. So I said, 30%, 90%. Where's that other 60%? I got to find them. I can win an election with them.
Yeah.
And the support from women's organizations, because I did become the first woman elected to executive branch, was very important. And I had spent my career doing a lot of things for those kinds of groups, not intentionally, but the women lawyers of the state. I'm a woman, I'm a lawyer. I've been a school teacher. School teachers are predominantly female. They were enthused about it. I've never been a social worker, but in my dealings as a lawyer and domestic lawyer working with social services and being a guardian ad litem, which was the system back then, I had knowledge of the kind of work that social workers have to do. I've worked with a bunch of them, and they embraced me wholeheartedly. I've never been a nurse. Most of them are female. They embraced me wholeheartedly. And, I knew some of the leaders in some of these, but there were people out there who had never met me that jumped in both feet up to their shoulders to support what they considered a qualified woman to run for office. And the fact that it was Richard Petty gave them the extra oomph that,
Yeah.
don't mess with women.
I remember that race, and I remember a slogan, a serious candidate for a serious job.
That is absolutely right.
I do that. I will.
Prize.
There's pieces of North Carolina politics I'll just never forget, and that is one of those pieces. And I think I was starting out in state government when you won that race, and it really, the import of you being the first female council of state member was kind of lost on me at that time. Now it's so meaningful, but as a female who was a state employee during that time, I want to tell you, I think the coolest thing about that is the candidate we got in office as the first female happens to be 30 years later somebody who, like I said, brings the receipts and brings the energy every time, but also who I have watched over the years bring the respect from both sides of the aisle in the job, because it was a serious job. And you have been a really serious public servant. I just respect you so much. You've just been amazing to watch.
I'm the one that put that phrase together. I was so frustrated. This office does so many diverse things that don't necessarily hang together, and they're kind of ho-hum bland to talk about, And I was talking to somebody who had been in a Senate office. I doodle and make notes when I'm talking, and I was just expressing my frustration. This is way back early, and I wrote down serious candidate, and we were talking comparison to Richard Petty. That's how that came about. And I was just frustrated about, this is a serious job. How do I tell everybody that? I wrote down serious job. Well, if you say that, you don't have to say anymore. Exactly, because of the attention span, and a few words is what sticks with people. And so serious candidate for a serious job was correct.
Yeah.
It was accurate. It was me, and it worked.
I think it would be a good documentary or a film to
Oh gosh, that would be.
look back on that race. And thank you so much for coming in and giving us some time. It's awesome to hear your stories, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks for having me.